You heard it here. I don't know if you heard it here first, but I didn't hear it anywhere else. Maybe it was obvious and people didn't want to say it, but I said it here on April. I know I'm terrible. I was saying when I was right, knowing full well I've been wrong a lot. I'll try and bring it up when I'm wrong, but I said in April that if Jesse Marsch can keep Leeds United up in the Premier League, it will be a huge swing because he will give this team an American identity, because he is going to use what he knows as an edge that other managers in the Premier League don't know, that he has an inside track on American talent. He's willing to give these guys a chance, but he has an inside track to see something special. And American talent is increasing by leaps and bounds. And there might be a time when a couple American players playing for a Premier League club isn't worthy of me making a video, but it is now. And whether it changes in the future or if it accelerates in the future depends a big way on what happens with Leeds United, which have just completed the move for Tyler Adams after completing the move of Brendan Aaronson, combined about $55 million of players to go with an American manager. And we will ask today here on the Soccer OG, we will ask the question, what has to happen for American players to take the next step? And that is Leeds United having success. I will answer that question. A reminder to check out the Soccer OG podcast, where all podcasts are available. I have a podcast up right now with Keith Costigan, who called the Under-20 games. Another exciting development for U.S. soccer. Check it out. It's a good conversation. And, well, we'll talk about those guys a lot next year, as we did on the podcast when they get to the Under-20 World Cup. Please like and subscribe. Did you guys do that at home when I do it? Wouldn't that be cool? And leave a comment. Happy to answer all your questions here. And we'll certainly start ramping up. But we've got to get going here. Hey, before I get started, this is 4th of July starts grilling season. And I like to get on the grill with my family, thanks to our good friends at Farmer John. Hi, everybody. It's Max Bretos. I'm with my wonderful family. And we are grilling with Farmer John. And we are going to be making
bacon-wrapped pork medallions as an appetizer.
Wrap bacon in anything. That is a special slice of nirvana.
Get that on the grill.
Look at that. It's just glorious. Put that in a museum.
I think you guys are liking this. You're having fun,
It's
huh?
fun. Oh, that looks good. Super tender. Melted right in my mouth. Really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed that. Farmer John have been great. And if you're in California, check out their products. So the best bacon you'll eat, pork loin, you name it, they'll do it in your supermarket refrigerator. So looking out for the peeps and trying to make my son a cooking personality. We've got a long way to go. All right, let's get into Leeds United. So we'll start about Tyler Adams. Leeds United have been very active. By the time I'm recording this, they have made 6 new signings. This is a huge change. Remember, they stayed in the Premier League last game of the season. This is a massive club, in case you don't know. It has an incredible history despite being down in the championship for some time. Some of the biggest names in English soccer have played for this team. They were at the height, the Don Revie days, and the book Damned United, and the movie, which is very good too. Even some 25 years ago, Leeds United hovering around the top with the likes of Harry Kewell and Mark Viduka, just to name a few. It was a super team. They made the semifinals, I think, twice of the Champions League. And then, zoop. But the fans are still there. The resources are still there. The money's there thanks to new ownership. And Leeds United, although they're not going to be at the level of Newcastle United with the money they're bringing in. If you didn't hear about Newcastle, huge, was it UAE money coming in there? They're not at that level, but they have ambition. They certainly do. A team that shouldn't get relegated anytime soon, and that really is where this project lies right now. So Tyler Adams, who has a relationship with Jesse Marsch, and Tyler said it, Jesse was a huge influence on my career so far. They were all in the Red Bull system. Brendan Aaronson was at Red Bull Salzburg. Jesse Marsch was there for a bit. He coached Tyler Adams at New York Red Bulls. Thank you to Red Bull. Red Bull has done very good for American soccer, at least in this case, if it works out. It needs to work out. So those two guys benefited because of having a connection to Jesse Marsch. And by the way, this happens all the time. They're not American. A Dutch manager, Dutch players. What do you think's happening with Erik ten Hag? Erik ten Hag has been bringing guys that he knows. That's what new managers do. And it gives them an edge because they know things about those players other managers don't, because they either coach them or they've been close to them or they know someone who has. So American players aren't at the level of Dutch players, or if you're a French manager or an Argentine manager or a German manager, you have that edge. You know, it happens all the time. Chelsea. These teams do happen. You know, you have a German manager, you have German players, even though they arrived at different times. That's how it works. This is the first time we've really had a high-profile with tenure manager in Jesse Marsch. Tyler Adams comes from Red Bull Leipzig, and I would say at this time, Red Bull Leipzig is a bigger club than Leeds on the field. Tyler Adams played with them, and they made the semifinals of the Champions League. Everyone's making the semifinals of the Champions League. Leeds are not there, and Leeds have some flaws, and now they're going to be missing some of their biggest players. They got in with the incredible play of Marcelo Bielsa, but it seemed unsustainable, and injuries hit them very hard. Tyler wasn't playing a lot at Red Bull Leipzig at the end. He wasn't starting, I should say. In the end, 37 games, pretty regular participant. It wasn't like he was getting splinters in his backside on the bench. So it made sense. $24 million is a lot. It's not crazy, right? For that kind of player, it's kind of the going rate, but it's enough that if you come in at that price, at that number, you're going to play. So we know Brendan Aaronson at $30 million, Tyler Adams at $24 are going to play. Leeds have also added Marc Roca from Bayern Munich. He played sometimes there. He projects to be a midfielder, so they're really trying to bolster their midfield, which was a weak point there. Not Calvin Phillips was obviously there, but who went there, and just the midfield in general was a little bit flawed. And obviously they couldn't score goals in many cases too, and they missed Patrick Bamford. Rasmus Christensen, a fullback, also joins from Red Bull Salzburg, connection to Jesse Marsch. And who am I missing? Luis Sinisterra, Colombian winger for Feyenoord, put up huge numbers. You get a little pause because a lot of people put huge numbers in Dutch football. He is there to replace Rafinha, who has not left the club as of yet. So they have been very active bringing in those players. Have I mentioned everybody? Aaronson, Roca, Christensen. I did. We've heard a lot of rumors as well from more Americans. As I said, he's not messing around. Chris Richards, wasn't he mentioned? Possibly at Leeds, although he's been mentioned for a lot of clubs. So maybe more Americans are coming. Rafinha, we mentioned him. Looks like he's going to Chelsea. Barcelona are craving him because but they can't afford him because of their financial situation. It seems like it's going to be Chelsea. He is a superb player and was a big part of keeping them up last season. That's a guy you can't really replace. He's going to be in a huge price number for whoever he ends up with. Calvin Phillips leaving Leeds United. Calvin Phillips, a very special player. He's going to Manchester City, and it's for $50 million, around that. So big price tag, although most people would say it's a good price for a guy like Phillips who starts every game for England alongside Declan Rice. So now you look at how this will be a success, because I've watched the Tyler Adams press conference and I've noticed some things. When Jesse Marsch was there, and this was all funny and new, he got the questions about Ted Lasso. He got the question about huddling during the game. Those questions aren't coming up now. He's a known quantity. And they didn't ask Tyler some of these, condescending questions in some way, shape, or form, with innuendo that you're American, you don't know this. Those are starting to go away. And even reporters that I've heard talk about Tyler Adams, they do it in a very matter-of-factly way that shows you that this is commonplace. You need things to change, and if Americans prove themselves in England, that's going to change, because if there's not going to be guys chuckling in the back, they're going to have to accept the fact Americans are the real McCoy. So this is a situation now that it can stay that way. It can stay that way for the perception if Leeds don't get relegated. I think it's for 1 year. If they don't start poorly, if they don't fall on their faces, because if they do, because now it's not just Jesse Marsch, it's Tyler Adams and Brendan Aaronson, and the new signings are going to get the blame. And because they're American, they'll probably do it too, and you know what it's going to sound like. Well, he brought his American buddies and looked like it happened. So if we're rolling around in October and Leeds are in 16th and they're thinking about it's not going well, and those guys aren't playing great, and obviously the results aren't going, and he may get fired, this goes back to how it used to be, or at least close to it. There's still a little bit of equity, I think, built in that. It is... The thing with Aaronson and Adams is they are going to start the season. We're not going to have a Christian Pulisic situation. And by the way, we could have a Juventus. We talk about Leeds United being a super team. Juventus could become one too if this Christian Pulisic move happens. It seems like it has to happen because they're not leaving any room for him at Chelsea. So kind of has to happen. And then you have that, and we'll have a conversation about that. And then again, we'll stop talking about super teams. But this won't be a Christian Pulisic like when he got there where they're testing him out. They're spending this money. There is a need. I would be stunned if Brendan Aaronson and Tyler Adams are not in the starting 11 for their opening fixture, which is August the 6th at home at Ellen Road against Wolves. We're all going to be watching that. That's going to be a very exciting, memorable moment. They will get the chance. Now, if they stay buoyant, then this will work out. How is that possible? Because it's not going to fall on the shoulders of Brendan Aaronson and Tyler Adams. A little bit certainly on the shoulders of Jesse Marsch. But if they're going to win games, if they're going to score goals, what's going to make that to happen? The way Leeds United and the perception of Americans maintains itself and builds from here, certainly in the Premier League, we're talking about the Premier League, is if Leeds United has success. If they have success, it's a collective. This is Leeds United. They are a collective going back to the Bielsa days. Everyone chips in. They all have to do their part to make sure Leeds United at worst are like 12th. I think that they'll be certainly buoyed by that. It's going to be a big job, by the way, when you look at some of the new signings. Because even though the new signings are obviously, there's 6 of them, they're all going to have to play a role, and there's maybe more signings. Rafinha hasn't gone yet, but this is what I do know. It's quantity over quality. Calvin Phillips is a much better midfielder than Tyler Adams. Much better. How do I know this? Because Manchester City wants him. That's what I know. Pep Guardiola would not approach. He can pick any midfielder he wants. He's going with Calvin Phillips. He is electric. And when you look at the two players, Calvin Phillips is I hate to say the word destroyer, but ball winner. They are. They come in and they win. Provider, distributor, and also goes box to box. Tyler Adams, destroyer, ball winner, short passing, not really box to box. It's a more traditional implementation of that position. So Tyler Adams is not a direct replacement for Calvin Phillips. Luis Sinisterra is not a direct replacement for Rafinha. Rafinha is a different class. That's why Chelsea and Barcelona want him. So it has to be a collective because Adams is not going to outperform Calvin Phillips, and the fans at Ellen Road will equate that. He's not as good as the guy who used to be in front of him. That's why Marc Roca and other guys have to platoon that midfield. And the same fans will say Luis Sinisterra is not as good as Rafinha. 100%. So you're not going to get a situation regarding those certain players. And if Brendan Aaronson plays in the midfield, and remember he played with the national team, so that is a position that Leeds United will kick the tires on for Brendan Aaronson. And they'll also maybe a comparison to Calvin Phillips. But those players, even though Brendan Aaronson's a little closer to Calvin Phillips, are not Calvin Phillips or Rafinha. Those are very special players that these Americans are not at that level. Maybe one day. So everyone has to chip in. So when we watch Leeds United plays, you're going to pull for everyone. They need to get healthy. They need Patrick Bamford because he was a good goal scorer. They need him back. He missed a lot. Joe Gelhardt, good young player up front. Jack Harrison, Rodrigo, These are players that are creative and attacking-wise. Jack Harrison with Major League Soccer ties. They got to score some goals. They've got to be effective. They've got to defend. Diego Lorente, Liam Cooper, Firpo, the fullbacks, Ailing. They're good. It's a good team. It's a good team. Stars? Not really. Not a star-studded team, which could be okay. Ilan Melier, the goalkeeper, the youngest goalkeeper in the Premier League, tons of potential. If he is effective, and many feel he can, and he denies some shots here and there that keep Leeds United with a point or 3 points, that goes a long way. So you pull for all of them. And maybe they're not done with the transfers. I think they would need maybe a little bit more depth. But they've been more active than other teams, and they should be better than the bottom 3 or the bottom 5. But this is the Premier League, where more and more teams are in the money for a variety of reasons. We shall see. Let's enjoy the games as much as everyone, but we're pulling for Leeds. We're hoping Tyler Adams... Look, if Tyler Adams has to sit a little bit, or Brendan Aaronson, as long as Leeds United are getting points and Jesse Marsch is getting results, that is paramount, because that will reflect well off of Adams and Aaronson. I expect Aaronson to be impactful. I expect him to get some goals. I'm a little worried about Tyler Adams, quite frankly, because we've seen on the club level the lack of being able to be a multi-tool player. But maybe that's what Leeds United wants. But it's a big jump because Calvin Phillips, that's the problem when you replace someone like that. It may be a 2-person job, and that might help Tyler Adams in the end of it. Rate, review, and subscribe my Soccer OG podcast, which, by the way, was nominated for a Best American Podcast on World Soccer Talk. So go to World Soccer Talk and vote for the Soccer OG. Forgot to mention that. Very pumped. Thank you. Results. And please like and subscribe here, and we'll see how this Leeds United goes. The season will be here in a month.